Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So I struggle to find inspiration sometimes for stories, whether that be for filmmaking or a story I want to tell through photography, or writing a short story or writing poetry or something like that. And sometimes you have deadlines for school or for yourself and you just need to write something, you want to write something, and you never want to not be happy with your idea, right? You always want to be excited about what you're going to be writing about. So today I thought I'd tell you some tips that I have on finding an idea that you actually like to write about when you need to write something. For a creative writing class, a creative writing proposal, or for a short film, something like that. So here's some ideas to discover your story and begin your brainstorming. So I like going on walks and listening to music. This can be a walk in your neighborhood, a walk in your apartment complex, a walk in your city or your town, a walk in a park, anywhere. And you can walk with or without music. For me, music helps inspire as well, and instead of just sitting and listening to music, I like to be walking around too, observing other people on their walks, thinking about, ooh, I wonder what their day consists of, and maybe that can start moving you towards an idea for a story or a poem. Especially for poetry, going on walks inspires a lot of imagery and feelings, so that's definitely one of my favorite ways and most fun ways to get inspiration for an idea, or the beginning of an idea. Maybe not a full idea, but definitely some of an idea. Reading and watching TV and movies. Obviously you can't copy a story exactly from someone else's work, but we're inspired by the things around us, and that includes reading stories and watching TV and movies. And what I find is inspiring about that sort of thing is how they're telling the story, and that can kind of give you inspiration for, oh, okay, that's really cool how they did this to tell this part of the story, the order they took, the point of view they used, the themes they introduced at this time. And I think that that can help propel you into an idea that maybe you have like a character in mind that you want, or a point of view, but you don't know exactly how you want to tell the story to make it interesting. And so I think that's a good way to get inspiration. Going through journals or reflecting on your day-to-day experiences. I really like writing in journals. I have a video on it actually from a few days ago. But going back through your journals and putting yourself back in the time frame you were in that you might have completely forgotten about, but it was really interesting, or a crazy thing that happened to you, or a certain feeling you felt. I think this is really helpful for both poetry and fiction writing, because it can obviously inspire maybe a character, maybe a plot line, maybe a subplot line. Maybe it can inspire certain imagery, feelings, like an artistic feeling that makes you inspired to write a certain poem. I really like this method, and it's really fun to reflect on your own life when you're going through your own journals, and or reflecting on your day-to-day experiences. I think that is really cool. Another idea is writing prompts. I love writing prompts. I go to Pinterest or somewhere else on the internet when I really want to write something, or I have to turn something in for writing, which I don't have to do anymore because I'm not at my university anymore, but in school, like when I had to start thinking of ideas, I always went to journal prompts. And what I discovered about some journal prompts is I would start with like where the journal prompt was at, what it was prompting me to write about, but I would end up like at a totally different idea that kind of had inklings of what the original prompt was. But that's what's really cool about journal prompts, is they just help you like instigate writing. If you're in a writer's block or something, you can go to a prompt and there's so many good ones and cool ones, and it's like, oh, this is really interesting. If it's like a scary writing prompt or like a mysterious one and you want to know what happens, but you have to write what happens. So starting with that writing prompt, even if it does end up the answer to that prompt, or maybe it ends up something almost completely different from the writing prompt, that writing prompt helped you to start writing and develop an idea from that. And I really love writing prompts, so definitely suggest those. This is kind of related to journals and reflecting on your past experiences. I recommend keeping a notebook or a document on your computer of random stuff that happens, or if you're writing in the car, or if you're going on a walk and you're not intentionally trying to brainstorm for a story, but then you come up with a story idea, write it down right then, because so many times I'm like, oh, I'll write this down later when I'm finished having this conversation with someone, or when I get home, or whatever, and then I forget about it. I forget I had the idea, or I just generally forget what the idea was. It's really frustrating. So I suggest getting a notebook or on your computer or something and writing those ideas down. And they might be not developed ideas at all. They don't have to be. It can just be a like 2-sentence idea. Write it down, because then when you're trying to think of story ideas, you can go back to that document, go back to that notebook, and look and be like, okay, this story idea, and then maybe you already have a loose idea or a character or something, and you can use those together, and that is super helpful. And then my final one is, sometimes you might have like a plot or a theme or a set of characters or the eventual outcome of the story that you want, but you don't have the way you want to start it, what you want to happen, how you want to write the dialogue, what the character arcs need to be, what the general narrative arc needs to be. Start running with what you have. Just start writing the loose idea, like a stream of consciousness type thing. This has helped me in ways that I didn't even know that it could, and I thought it was just pointless. I thought I was just wasting time doing it, but I've developed most of my stories that I turned in at school using some form of this technique. Very loose idea and just starting to write. You might throw it all out, but something I learned in fiction writing, my first fiction writing class, was after a couple of drafts, you might just cut like the whole first part, because you're really not getting into the meat of the story until the middle or closer to the end, and then that's where your story kind of begins. And I learned that through workshops and just getting drafts back and stuff. And so just start writing that idea. Run with what you have. You might not have the characters, you might not have the narrative arc, you might just have events that are happening. Just start writing, because you will be able to develop a story from that most likely. And it's just, you're just writing. And sometimes if you're in writer's block, you just gotta write, right? So those are some ideas that I have, tips that I have for when you're stuck in a writer's block for any sort of storytelling, filmmaking, photography, creative writing, any sort of fiction, poetry, nonfiction. And I hope that these helped. And if you have any other tips, I'd love for you to comment them below, and like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!